The wedding was about to begin when Ryan sent me a message. Ying is hospitalized. Let's postpone the wedding. The makeup artist, who was touching up my look, flinched and accidentally dotted a beauty mark on my forehead. Without changing my expression, I called Ryan's arch-rival. The wedding is short of a groom. Wanna step in? Charlotte had grown up. Even my usually strict father spoke to me in a tone laced with gratitude and reassurance. Live-streaming the wedding turned out to be a brilliant idea, far more effective than a press conference. The moment the broadcast began, showing the union of the Shao and Cheng families, the old-timers on the board fell silent. I stared blankly at my reflection in the mirror, a bride-to-be with little joy in her eyes. After all, just before the call, I'd received Ryan's message. Ying is hospitalized. Let's postpone the wedding. Reading it, I felt a desolate emptiness. Perhaps because this scenario had played out too many times before, there was a strange relief in its inevitability. My best friend Lindsay was furious. Postpone the wedding? Is Ryan's brain full of crap? The live stream has already started, and he wants to postpone, she ranted while pacing in circles. Then broke down in tears and hugged me when she saw my numb expression. Charlotte, Ryan, that bastard, he knew exactly what this wedding meant to you. What are we going to do now? Yeah. What are we going to do? The Citigroup's projects have been losing money left and right, and suddenly the board members are joining forces to replace someone. My sexist father hastily threw me into this arranged marriage. My childhood sweetheart, the Xiao family's young master Ryan, who just the day before was swearing he'd always stand by my side, vanished at the critical moment, leaving only a text message. Lindsay's eye makeup was smudged by tears as she rubbed her eyes and asked me, Charlotte, what if I have my brother come over now to complete the wedding with you? We can just say it's an alliance between our families. I was torn between laughter and tears, hugging Lindsay in return. Your brother just turned 18. Let's not ruin his life. Thank you for being here with me. I'll figure something out. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd use. Is that promise you made still valid? The voice on the other end sounded muffled, almost melancholic. It is. I bit my lip. My groom ran away today. Can you help me out in this emergency? The voice suddenly became clear. Of course, but I have an additional condition. My mind raced, calculating which projects or assets in the city I could offer in exchange. This was, after all, the Qin family's crown prince, known for his discerning taste, but the reply caught me off guard. After the wedding, bring your ID and come with me to the civil registry office. I was momentarily stunned. The usually composed voice on the phone now carried a hint of excitement. Marry me for real. I don't do fake weddings. My brain short-circuited for a second. Wasn't the Qin heir famously disciplined and indifferent to women? How did he know Ryan and I were only having a ceremony without registering the marriage? Then it hit me. The Qin family's vast empire. I'll sign a prenup, of course. Ha 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 ha. A hearty laugh came through the phone. No prenuptial agreement. I was stunned for a moment. Was the young master of the Qin family playing this big, just to spite his rival? He wouldn't even sign a prenup before marriage. Charlotte, who are you going to register with? After hanging up, Lindsay stared at me wide-eyed, tears streaming down her face like they were free. I felt both helpless and touched as I took Lindsay's hand. Don't look at me like that. Am I the kind of person who'd sell myself off so casually? I walked with Lindsay to the balcony. Overlooking what was supposed to be the wedding banquet for me and Ryan, guests were gradually taking their seats, and the live-streaming team we'd specially invited was still diligently filming and narrating every detail of the wedding. I'd wanted a garden wedding witnessed by friends and family. Ryan had gone to great lengths to find the most beautiful lawn in the entire city. The wedding dress and suit were chosen by Ryan. The ring was designed and made by Ryan himself. And even every bouquet on the lawn was finalized by Ryan. Like me, he had been full of anticipation for this wedding. Yet despite all his effort, at the most crucial moment, he still chose to walk away. My phone kept buzzing with intermittent messages, and Ryan's voice in the room felt oddly out of place. Cheng, I know you're the most understanding. I'll make it up to you later. Charlotte, Ying was in a car accident. She can't be left alone, if I'm not there. She won't agree to the surgery. Charlotte, be good. We'll hold the wedding another day. I don't know what Xiaonanshu was thinking. Yesterday I repeatedly reminded him how important today's wedding is to me. At the time, he just smiled, kissed me, and told me not to overthink it, to relax and be the most beautiful bride. But how could I relax? Xu Yingying even sent me a message yesterday. Guess what? If something suddenly happens to me on the wedding day, will Nanshu choose to marry you or stay with me? I wanted to know too. I told myself this was the last time I'd gamble. After all, it's a wedding I've spent half a year preparing for. The event planning company worked fast. Within 15 minutes, they swiftly replaced everything related to the groom. The guests erupted in murmurs. Why the sudden change? Did something go wrong with the alliance between the two families? The head of the live streaming team cautiously approached me, unable to hide the concern in his eyes. Miss Cheng, should we continue the live stream? Continue, I said, but don't film the part about the groom change for now. As soon as I finished speaking, my dad called, even through the phone. I could hear his fury. You stupid girl, what the hell are you doing? Did Ryan dump you? The board said you changed the groom. What kind of terrible idea is that? I told you not to do the live stream, but you wouldn't listen. Now everyone knows Ryan left you. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the disappointment in my heart. Dad, the one who broke his promise was Ryan. His voice grew even angrier. I don't care about any of that. Go beg Ryan. Get on your knees if you have to, and make him come back to marry you. Before I could finish, Dad hung up. I let out a bitter laugh. Again, always like this. The live streaming team leader hesitated for a moment before tentatively speaking up. Miss Cheng, do you need our equipment to malfunction? The unexpected kindness caught me off guard. Thank you. If I recall correctly, your team is also a small startup. Aren't you afraid of ruining your reputation? Surprisingly, the leader was remarkably open-minded. We're small anyway. If it fails, we'll just start over. But Miss Cheng, your wedding doesn't sound like it's going well. I smiled wryly. Yes, even a live streaming company executive I barely know is concerned about me and trying to help. But what about those who claim to love me? Suddenly, noise erupted from the wedding lawn. As I looked at the person who had appeared just in time at the edge of the lawn, my eyes grew slightly moist. The groom is here. You can focus on your live stream now. William strode onto the lawn, and whether it was my imagination or not, under the sunlight, William seemed to glow. The one marrying Cheng is me. Both the Qin and Cheng families hope to receive everyone's sincere blessings. William's princely aura was no exaggeration. His commanding gaze swept across the crowd, and the venue quickly fell silent. 20 minutes later, the wedding music began to play. I took a deep breath and slowly walked onto the lawn. The sun was bright, and everything felt clear. Step by step, I moved forward, scanning the familiar faces. To my surprise, the Qin family patriarch had actually come. I looked up and saw that, apart from the patriarch, William's parents, younger sister, and the entire Qin family were all present. My gaze finally settled on William, standing at the center of the lawn. He wore a well-tailored black suit, his posture upright, his eyes sharp, and a faint smile on his face. I walked up to him and met his gaze. His eyes were deep and complex, filled with emotions I couldn't decipher. William was tall, and standing beside him, I seemed especially delicate. I blinked back the tears in my eyes. Thank you, William. William gave my hand a gentle squeeze. The honor is mine. When exchanging rings, I froze for a moment. This wasn't the wedding ring Ryan had painstakingly designed before. The ring was simpler and more elegant than the previous one. Yet the diamond was even larger. I clicked my tongue inwardly, thinking, the Qin family truly lives up to their reputation as a top-tier family in Jincheng. Casually producing such an inhumanely extravagant ring, the ring fit my finger perfectly, surprisingly snug. I froze again. You may now kiss the bride. I felt a little dazed. I'd always known William was handsome, wealthy, and exceptionally capable, the epitome of the perfect child in parents' eyes. But now, as that strikingly handsome face drew closer, I couldn't help but feel uncontrollably flustered, unsure whose heartbeat was pounding so loudly. Thump, 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 thump. William seemed to smile. Closing my eyes under the gaze of the crowd, I slowly shut them, feeling the brief, soft brush of his lips. William gently took my hand. Oh, another one, another one. Amid the cheers and congratulations ringing in my ears, I opened my eyes to see William's ears flushed crimson. He grinned triumphantly at the crowd. This is my wife. Why should I let you see? I felt both shy and flustered, not daring to meet William's eyes, my mind fixated on a single thought. William looks so rugged, so how are his lips so soft? After leaving the civil affairs office, my mind was still catching up. Just like that, we were officially married. Back in the car, William kept flipping through the 2 marriage certificates, his smile unwavering. Sitting beside William, I felt a little uneasy. William finally tore his gaze away from the marriage certificate, cleared his throat lightly, and looked at me. We're legally married now, you can call me something else. I hesitated, just about to speak, when a car with an all too familiar license plate pulled up. Ryan stepped out of the car and tapped on the window. Well, what wind blew the crown prince here? Fancy seeing you in this place. William rolled down the window with a dark expression, Ryan's voice drifting in through the gap. On impulse, I threw myself into William's arms. Ryan looked at William with a teasing grin. The Chin-chan is lucky. Such an enthusiastic little girlfriend. William paused. Glancing down at me, who had buried myself in his arms like an ostrich, he gently patted my head before turning back to Ryan, his expression returning to its usual indifference. Let me introduce you. This is my wife, the kind with a marriage certificate. Ryan looked stunned. When did you get married? How come I didn't know? Before William could answer, Ryan added with a laugh. Today was supposed to be my wedding day with Cheng too, but something came up. Now I've got to hurry and apologize to her. William let out a soft scoff and stroked my head again, as if to comfort me. Nestled in William's arms, I felt nothing but warmth and security, a sense of safety I'd never known before. Ryan's voice suddenly hesitated. William, why does this Mrs. Chin look somewhat familiar? You didn't even introduce her to me. I was just about to raise my head when Ryan's phone suddenly rang. What? Ying is awake. Okay, I'll be right back. Ryan and William quickly exchanged greetings before hurriedly leaving. I smirked. See, it's nothing special. Let's add each other on WeChat, dear. William pulled up a QR code and handed over his phone. My previously low spirits were completely scattered by William's term of endearment. Flustered, I reached into my bag for my phone, only to find it had already died and shut down automatically. Sorry, William, my phone's out of battery. William was amused. How does that sound so much like an excuse to reject me? I just got my license. Am I about to lose my job already? William tilted his head to look at me. I won't tease you anymore. Come on, let me show you the house. Show me what? A big question mark rose in my heart. William, forgive my bluntness, but now that we've gotten the certificate, what exactly do you need me to do? Cover for you or something? William fell silent for a moment, his ears slowly turning red. When he spoke again, his tone was full of gravity. Cheng, I might sound a bit hasty saying this, but I don't want to hide from you how incredibly grateful I am. Grateful that you called me at that moment. I also really want to thank you for giving me this chance to pursue you under the pretense of marriage. William's straightforwardness caught me off guard. I wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. A handsome, wealthy, and outstanding man said he wanted to pursue me. A man who had just registered our marriage, a man who could also help solve all the problems I was facing. No matter how you look at it, this seemed like the perfect ending to a Cinderella story. I thought, and finally spoke up. President Chin, do you know everything about my situation? After all, you helped me first, and I'm hardly someone worth your attention. William smiled, his eyes twinkling like stars. The Chin family's crown prince isn't just a title. I know everything about you, perhaps even more than you'd imagine. It's too late tonight, and this place is closer. Let's rest here for the night, and I'll take you to the old house tomorrow. Okay. Silently, I followed William out of the car. William was meticulous. Everything in this house was even more thoughtful than what I'd have at home. From the design to the layout, from skincare products to meals, every detail perfectly matched my tastes and preferences. My phone finally charged, and a flood of messages and missed calls suddenly overwhelmed me. The ringtone blared abruptly, and after staring at it for a while, I finally answered. sweetheart. When did you start getting involved with William? Why didn't you tell your dad? Ask William if the city can invest in that project in the East District. William noticed my expression wasn't great and signaled me to turn on the speakerphone. Mr. Cheng, this is William. Cheng. He's tired and needs rest. You can talk to me about anything. My father's voice carried a flattery I'd never heard before. Of course, William. You and Cheng should come home for dinner sometime. The phone rang again, the name Ryan flashing persistently. Suddenly, I felt utterly exhausted. William turned off the phone, scooped me up, and sat me down on the sofa. Charlotte, rest well. Nothing is more important than your health. Sleep peacefully. I'll be right here with you. William's embrace was inexplicably warm. William gently patted my back, and I found myself unable to hold back my tears. I slept unusually deeply that night. And when I woke up, I realized I was still being held by William. I shifted slightly, and William, seemingly still asleep, unconsciously patted me again. I stared blankly at William's sleeping face. And as I looked, I suddenly felt he looked somewhat familiar. William opened his eyes, saw it was me, leaned in to give me a kiss, and said, "Good morning, wifey." Then he closed his eyes and went back to sleep, his movements quick and practiced. Before I could react, I heard William murmuring with his eyes closed, "Today's wifey feels so real, so cute, and so nice to kiss. It's just weird. Why are my arms tingling?" I couldn't help but burst out laughing. William turned to look at me and suddenly froze. Morning. Perhaps the deep sleep had restored me somewhat, as I met William's eyes and smiled, saying, "Good morning, hubby." William's eyes seemed to sparkle with starlight, his smile unstoppable, and his ears turned bright red again. Cheng, our whole family adores you." The visit to the old house went surprisingly smoothly. William's family was very warm towards me, especially Grandpa Chin, who smiled and said to me, "Don't mind this rascal, even the dogs can't stand. Charlotte, you mustn't dislike him. This man, whose anger could make the entire city tremble, was unexpectedly so kind." The undisguised disdain and arrogance from Seong Nanshu's parents in the past now feel like a lifetime ago. As we were about to leave the old house, William held my hand and walked slowly with me in the garden. Ryan, who had somehow heard the news, came running over breathlessly when he saw our intertwined hands. His eyes instantly turned red. Cheng, William is already married. How could you be so reckless, choosing to be his mistress rather than waiting for me? Didn't I tell you? I'll make sure to give you a wedding another day. William's gaze turned icy as he shielded me behind him. If you have a problem, take it up with me. What kind of man bullies my wife? Ryan froze, looking up in disbelief. Your wife? Are you joking? Charlotte could never be your wife. Charlotte grew up with me as childhood sweethearts, always dreaming of marrying me. Little Nanshu's eyes grew even redder, veins nearly popping. Charlotte, you tell William, we are getting married, right? Ryan looked at me pleadingly, wanting to hear me say that affirmative answer. I took half a step forward and held William's hand. We've already registered our marriage. I, Charlotte, am William's rightful, legally recognized wife, acknowledged by both families. Ryan's gaze suddenly darkened. He seemed struck, his voice unsteady as he spoke. "So, you didn't cancel the wedding that day. At the wedding venue I carefully selected and arranged, you married William. The figure I saw in William's car that day was really you. Cheng, how could you do this? Why treat me like this?" Ryan's helplessness made me feel utterly ridiculous. "Why, don't you know, the Citigroup is on the verge of bankruptcy. I need a marriage alliance to stabilize the board, don't you understand? If I can't marry you, my father will trade me to that 60-something-year-old Mr. Wang in exchange for investment. Didn't you know, the wedding was live-streamed, there was absolutely no possibility of postponement. Didn't you know?" I laughed so hard that tears streamed down my face. William looked at me with heartache, gently wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes. "Ryan, you knew all of this. You've backed me into a corner with no way out, and yet you still ask me why. If you had even an ounce of trust in me, you'd have known I married William that very day." Ryan turned deathly pale, murmuring, "I thought, what did I think?" Ryan was dazed. What had he been doing at the time? It seemed Shu Yingying had been in a car accident. And he was fixated on the idea that this was the last time. He had already done so much for Shu Yingying, often neglecting Chengcheng's feelings in the process. He thought it would finally repay the Shu family's debt to the Xiao family. Once he accompanied Shu Yingying through her surgery, he would go apologize to Cheng, they'd replan the wedding, and he'd give her the grandest, most perfect ceremony. Watching Ryan lost in thought, I decided to lay everything bare. Ryan, on the day of the wedding, not a single member of the Xiao family showed up. Shu Yingying had texted me the night before. She knew she'd be in an accident that day. It was as if they all knew you and I were never meant to marry. Ignoring Ryan's crumbling composure, I took William's hand and walked out of the old mansion. William, am I really that useless? William and I returned home, but I couldn't control my emotions. My mother is seriously ill, yet I can do nothing. I had to watch as the mistress and her illegitimate child waltzed right into our home. While the childhood friend I trusted most betrayed me at the most critical moment, I worked hard, grew stronger, only to be traded away by my father like some commodity in the end. William gently pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. Charlotte, you've already done your best. The saying "a sword's edge is honed through grinding" may sound old-fashioned, but it fits Cheng perfectly now. All the setbacks you've faced will eventually become the adornments and sharp edges that define you. I've reviewed every project you've handled. You've grown with each success, haven't you? To break free from the shadow of Citigroup's family business, Cheng has already ventured down many unconventional paths. William's tone was soft yet firm as he held me, murmuring reassurances for a long time. Slowly, his words calmed me down. He was right. What's gone is gone. There's no point letting past moments trap me now. Instead, I need to stay focused on my goals and keep moving forward. William, keenly sensing the shift in my mood, looked intently into my eyes. Charlotte, to be honest, I have my own selfish wish. I want you to rely on me more, whatever you choose to do. Remember, I'm here with you. No sooner had he finished speaking than William suddenly stood up, leaving me momentarily stunned. After a while, William came over with a stack of documents and knelt on one knee. Charlotte, I've imagined countless scenarios of proposing to you, never daring to hope you'd agree. Perhaps heaven has favored me, granting me the chance to become your partner. This is an asset gift agreement. I voluntarily and unconditionally transfer all my assets to you. Will you marry me? I opened the agreement. The asset gift list alone was thick enough to astonish anyone. William's wealth was staggering. The title Crown Prince was no exaggeration. Deeply moved, I still closed the file and asked William why. As William narrated, I slowly recalled a version of myself that was nearly forgotten. When my mother was still alive, she was extremely protective of me, rushing me to the hospital at the slightest discomfort. Once, by mistake, I wandered into the opposite ward, a luxurious, spacious single room where a delicate, pale little boy lay on the bed. He was so beautiful that, seeing him asleep, I secretly kissed him. More importantly, his room was filled with all kinds of delicious food and fun toys. From then on, I often threw tantrums to go to the hospital, just to eat and play with him. I watched as the color slowly returned to his pale cheeks, and we pinky swore to keep playing together when we grew up. But when I was 9, my mother suddenly fell ill and rapidly deteriorated. My father soon remarried, bringing home a new mother and a brother around my age. No one ever took me to the hospital to see that little boy again. I actually looked for you later. William spoke hesitantly. But by then you already had Ryan by your side. I regretted missing my chance, but I couldn't accept it, so I kept watching over you. It suddenly dawned on me. So that time at the banquet, when you seemed to have been drugged, it was actually your doing. William smiled. It's not that I never thought of disturbing you. Maybe it was fate's favor, giving me another chance to get close to you. I almost eagerly promised you I'd agree to any condition, no matter what. At the time, I told myself that if you didn't use this condition, I'd leave things as they were and not interfere. But since you did, I'd pursue you with everything I had. I looked at William. He gazed at me sincerely, intently, his dark eyes like an invisible whirlpool. Who could refuse such unreserved devotion? I gently kissed his eyelids. I'm willing. But in the latter half of the night, I paid a steep price for those 3 words. Weren't you supposed to be chaste? Weren't you supposed to avoid women? All lies, all lies. I was about to break. My relationship with William progressed at lightning speed until Lindsay cautiously asked me, "Charlotte, have you been in touch with Song-Nanshu lately?" I was stunned. I blocked and deleted him ages ago. Why? Lindsay let out a sigh of relief. Ryan had been acting a bit strange lately. After meeting me that day, Ryan fell seriously ill upon returning home, running a high fever for several days before it finally subsided. Shu Yingying stayed by her side at the hospital the entire time, but when Ryan woke up, the two ended up in a huge argument. Ryan accused Shu Yingying of having ulterior motives, while Shu Yingying said Ryan was deliberately breaking the rules. Ryan also had a falling out with her parents over this, feeling they had deceived her under the guise of repaying a favor. According to Lindsay, Ryan had been reminiscing about our past in her social media posts every day. At first, people tried to console her, but eventually, they stopped. She had trapped herself in the past. Ever since marrying William, my dad's way of addressing me changed. From then on, kid was upgraded to beloved daughter. He would call me every few days to check in on me, as if doting on me endlessly. I never argued back, just quietly listened to his performance. I used to think the Citigroup was like a towering tree, and the path to avenging my mother was fraught with thorns. Only now do I realize how narrow my perspective was before. William found me tutors in various fields, and with his help, I absorbed knowledge like a sponge. One day while I was analyzing a merger case and feeling completely overwhelmed, Dad suddenly called, "Sweetie, I heard William has his eye on that plot of land in the West District. Can you ask him if it's true?" I glanced at William, who was still reviewing documents, and vaguely remembered him mentioning it. After hanging up, William suddenly asked me in an uncharacteristic tone, "Honey, what do you think about Citigroup?" Seeing his odd expression, I glared at him. "I'll handle this myself. Don't you interfere." William guiltily rubbed his nose. Honey, if I told you I already leaked the news, would you be mad?" "Not at all. You'll just sleep in the guest room for a month." "I'm sorry, honey." William pitifully kissed me and, taking advantage of my distraction, carried me into the master bedroom. Sure enough, when the West District land went up for online auction, I spotted Citigroup's involvement. They bid $2 billion. I countered with $5 billion, pushing them all the way to their limit of $5 billion. I stopped bidding and let Citi take the land. Dad called me, overjoyed, "Sweetie, your pillow talk worked like a charm. The Chin Group has never failed in land development, but this time they actually voluntarily gave the land to the Chen Group, leaving everyone envious. Ha ha ha." I chuckled softly. As long as Dad is happy, it's fine. William was right. For family businesses like the Citigroup, their rise and fall hinge on the same factors. Back when Mom and Dad were struggling in the early days, the core management seized the opportunity and made timely decisions, paving the way for the Citigroup's rise. But once the leader loses their mind, such massive cash flow becomes fatal for the group. The next day, the financial news headlines were all about the Citigroup securing the highest-priced land parcel in the West District for $5 billion. Looking at the interview photos of Dad and his illegitimate son, their smug and triumphant smiles as they basked in the media spotlight, I couldn't help but ask William in utter confusion, at his age, why does he still believe in pie-in-the-sky fantasies? William pretended to think for a moment, then looked at me with a serious expression. Maybe because the pie my wife drew for him is big enough, or maybe Chairman Cheng is just greedy enough. I rolled my eyes at him and promptly blocked Dad's number. Lindsay called to wake me up while I was still dreaming about bankruptcy and asset liquidation. Lindsay sounded frantic. Cheng, why are you still sleeping? That scumbag father of yours is spreading rumors everywhere about you." I opened the messages. Lindsay had sent me a flood of links, all with similar content. My dear father had gone to the media to sob about how he'd worked hard to raise me, only for me to betray my roots after marriage. He claimed I'd let love blind me and colluded with the Chin family to defraud the Cheng Group, causing the Citigroup's massive investment to go up in smoke. The comments below were a spectacle. "Love-struck brains are terrifying. Is betraying your family for a man worth it? People like her are disgusting." What's the point of leeching off others? Is this the same city group that live-streamed their wedding before? Gotta say, the city heiress's words really struck a chord with me. Netizens are truly outstanding. The comments just keep getting more entertaining. I lay on the bed, thoroughly engrossed, and when I came across a particularly funny comment, I couldn't help but shake with laughter. William suddenly rushed into the bedroom and hugged me tightly from behind. Wasn't he supposed to be at the office? William, his arms around me were actually trembling slightly as he gently took my phone. Sweetheart, don't cry, I'm already handling it, okay? I couldn't suppress the smile at the corners of my mouth. Slowly turning around, I looked innocently at the anxious William. You wouldn't be in this mess if you hadn't asked for it. I decided to retaliate in kind. I reached out to several major media outlets and reliable livestream platforms, releasing an advance notice for the livestream. The attention this matter garnered was even higher than I had anticipated. The livestream had just begun, and hundreds of thousands of viewers flooded into the room in no time. I presented the evidence I had prepared in advance, piece by piece, to the audience. The first document was the birth certificates of me and that illegitimate half-brother. He was only 2 months younger than me. The second was my mother's medical records, which were riddled with suspicious details from her illness to her death. The third included all the projects I had handled during my time at Urban Group. People often joked that I was a workaholic, and not without reason. Several core sectors of Urban Group were built under my leadership. The fourth document detailed the specifics of the land parcel in the West District that Urban Group had acquired. Previously, there had been a laboratory on that site, but due to an experimental accident, the underground soil was heavily contaminated, making it completely unsuitable for redevelopment. I also casually attached a promotional link for Urban Group's residential project planned for that very land. While the first 3 pieces of evidence had the audience merely enjoying the drama, some speculating that I was likely the illegitimate child of the conglomerate, others watching and joking, the tone shifted drastically with the 4th piece of evidence. After seeing it, the live stream exploded. How dare Urban Group do something so unethical? That's deep contamination. How could they even think of developing residential properties there? Black-hearted entrepreneurs. Boycott Urban Group starting with me. I exited the livestream. With ample evidence in hand, I thought to myself, my dear father, your days of freedom are probably numbered. Since you wanted to play the public opinion game, you'd better be prepared for the backlash. The evidence I revealed during the livestream caused a huge uproar. Companies that had partnerships with the city officially announced the termination of their collaborations, and the police immediately intervened to launch an investigation. My father tried calling me countless times using different numbers and reached out to every acquaintance he knew to get in touch with me, but I never responded to him. William protected me very well. At a charity gala, I was unexpectedly stopped by someone, Xu Yingying. I had long since cut off all contact with Xiong Nanshu, or more accurately, I unilaterally severed all ties. Xu Yingying looked me up and down, let out a cold laugh, and said, "Mitch, you really are lucky." I stared at her in confusion, unsure of what she wanted. It seemed she just had no one else to talk to and wanted to chat with me. I walked with her to the balcony, where I heard another version of the story from her. She and Ryan had gotten married long ago. She loved Ryan, even earlier than I did. Leveraging the Xu family's favor to the Xiao family, she had the patriarch arrange her marriage with Ryan. Ryan had always refused to make it public, so she quietly went along with it. But despite all her calculations, she never expected Ryan to actually fall for me. Ryan genuinely wanted to marry me, so he filed for divorce from Xu Yingying. Xu Yingying was devastated. When she found out Ryan and I were about to hold a wedding, she staged a car accident. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why his parents always looked at me with undisguised arrogance and disdain, and why Ryan was willing to hold a wedding with me but kept delaying the marriage registration. I had always thought Xu Yingying was the third party between Ryan and me. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I was the one who had intruded into someone else's marriage. Ryan kept professing his love for me, yet behind my back, he turned me into the very thing I despise most, the other woman. Suddenly, I found myself desperately missing William, longing to see him immediately. As I walked out of the banquet hall, I called William. Honey, come pick me up. Was tonight's party not fun? But I miss you. I'll be right there. I love you, hubby. I love you too, sweetheart. Next, I'll tell you the second story. It wasn't until I saw my son slipping something into my bowl that I realized how much he hated me. Dad, if I tell people that Mom is with Uncle Wang, can Sister Luo become my mom, to ensure I left with nothing during the divorce? My husband taught our son to accuse me of having an affair with the neighbor, only to marry his white moonlight afterward. Little did he know, I was also afraid he'd take my hundreds of millions in assets. Dad, if I tell people Mom is with Uncle Wang, can Sister Luo become my mom? Waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I was jolted awake by these words. Lucas's sister Luo was the new tutor. A while back, Lucas had begged me for a tutor. And David had eagerly arranged one. The tutor, Joanne, was a graduate of a business college, had studied abroad, and had worked as an executive at a well-known company. Her resume was impressive, though I was surprised someone like her would settle for tutoring at our home. Seeing how well she got along with my son, I didn't think much of it. Joanne told me, Sister, I don't have many friends or family back home, and I don't have any salary requirements, just provide me a place to stay. At the time, I didn't know she was David's white moonlight. Before marriage, I knew David had a white moonlight, but he said it was just a foolish college fling. She left him because he was poor and went abroad, and he hated her for it. When we got married, he knelt before me on one knee, eyes red, and said, Yuan, you're the only one who truly loves me. I, David, will love only you for the rest of my life. If I break this vow, may I die a horrible death. He came from a poor family, and even his relatives looked down on him. I was the one who stood by him, helping him rise to success. Today, he's the regional manager for Asia, earning millions a year. Lucas, as long as you do what Daddy says, your mom won't be able to control you anymore. Happy. Joanne sat in my husband's lap, gently stroking my son's head. This was Joanne's idea. David wanted a divorce but was afraid I'd take his assets, so he framed me for infidelity to leave me with nothing, after Lucas fell asleep. My husband and Joanne sat at Lucas's study desk, lost in a passionate kiss, clothes half undone, exploring deeply. Even through the screen, I could hear their heavy breathing. I recorded the video expressionlessly and sent it to my lawyer. Is this enough to make him leave with nothing? What he didn't know was that I, too, was afraid he'd take my hundreds of millions in assets. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I'm worth over 100 million. My family is extremely well off. My parents own properties all over the country, and the rental income alone is more than we could ever spend. When I first met David, he had a deep hatred for the wealthy because he said his first love abandoned him to go abroad for money. He swore to loathe rich people for the rest of his life, so I didn't dare to come clean. In truth, I was rolling in money, but to match his lifestyle. I wore clothes that cost just a few dozen yuan and bought discounted vegetables priced at a few yuan per pound from the supermarket. His pride was fragile. Unemployed, he lay at home drinking every day, lamenting that the world was vast but had no place for a talent like his. To spare his pride, I privately approached Mr. Summers and offered to reduce the rent by 30% on the condition that he become David's patron. Mr. Summers immediately called David personally to offer him a job. On his first successful day at work, he came home with a big cake, showering me with affection like I was his treasure, vowing to earn a fortune to support me and our child. Now, for the sake of a few million in his pocket, he's conspiring with his mistress to frame me for infidelity. How laughable. If he'd paid even a little attention to me, he'd have noticed the several sets of keys on the nightstand. The next day, as David was about to leave, he leaned in to kiss me. But I pretended to lower my head and dodged it. He paused, then smiled and said, Honey, I'll pick you up after work tonight. Dress up nicely. It's my birthday today. Half a month ago, he'd promised me a big surprise. If I hadn't witnessed that scene last night, I wouldn't have known the so-called surprise was actually a trap he'd set for me. I flashed him a sweet smile and replied, Sure, you want to watch a show? Let's see whose show it'll really be. Lucas, come. Joanna carried Lucas down from the dining table and said in a very gentle tone, "Say goodbye to Mommy." Lucas obediently said to me, "Mommy, goodbye." Then, Lucas held Joanne's hand and left the house with David. In the past, Lucas hated going to school the most. He wouldn't get up in the morning, refused to eat breakfast, and no matter how patiently I coaxed him, it was useless. He would cry and throw tantrums. Joanne said to me, "Sister, I go out every day too, why don't I drop Lucas off at school on my way?" Lucas listens to her and is willing to go to school obediently, which saves me a lot of worry. Then, after a few days, David said, "I go to work on the same route, I can take you all together." From then on, they all left the house together. I ate my bread. Watching Joanne and David hold Lucas's hand as they got into the car, Joanne sat in the passenger seat, smiling and talking to my husband, while my son sat quietly in the back seat, swinging his legs, looking very happy. Not long after, Xiao Liu sent me a surveillance video clip. "After the divorce, I came clean. I'm worth over 100 million. Tang." Li Hua didn't send Lucas to school. Instead, she dropped Lucas and Joanne off at a large shopping mall. Joanne browsed luxury goods in the mall, shopping for clothes and handbags. She took Lucas to the children's play area on the first floor, bought him a pile of fried food and carbonated drinks, and left him sitting there alone to eat slowly. Lucas was mischievous as a child and got injured, resulting in the removal of half his spleen and stomach. The doctor said he needed to maintain a light diet, so I never allowed him to eat these things. He threw tantrums a few times, even going on a hunger strike in protest, but after starving for a few days, he behaved. Seeing how firm I was, he didn't dare to act up again. I called Lucas's teacher, Ms. Zhong. "Lucas didn't go to school today. Lucas's mom. Lucas has taken a few days off already." It was Lucas's dad who called to request the leave, saying the child's grandmother passed away. "We were afraid of upsetting you, so we didn't dare call to verify." Heh, David now dares to flaunt himself in front of my parents. My parents looked down on David, that poor guy. They opposed me marrying him from the start. Even said I dressed like a beggar every day. They never brought David home for New Year's dinner, just booked a restaurant outside that matched his status. If it weren't for Lucas, they wouldn't even bother seeing David. All these years, I told them to keep it low-key, and they really didn't slip up. Now that David's made it big, he looks down on my parents from the bottom of his heart. My mother is still alive and well. She must have misremembered. It was her mother who passed. About the call I made to you today, don't tell the child's father for now. Ms. Zhong hung up the phone in panic. Joanne bought luxury goods and gave them to a woman. Someone I also know, my next-door neighbor, Sophie. The man she was holding on to wasn't her husband, Peter, but a young, strong guy. No wonder Joanne wanted to frame me for having an affair with the neighbor. Turns out his wife already had a man on the side. Sophie and Joanne hit it off and decided to pin the blame on me for sleeping with her husband, so she could divorce him legitimately and take the assets. After they parted ways, Sophie and the young guy went to a hotel. I sent the room number to her husband, hoping to stir up some drama, but I doubt anything will come of it. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I'm worth over 100 million. Sipping tea, I leisurely watched Joanne frantically making calls outside. She was probably calling Sophie. The party was about to start, and she needed Sophie to bring her husband over to proceed with their plan. From what I know, Peter is an international boxing champion. By now, Sophie might be getting beaten up. I put on a gorgeous dress and took the rare effort to dress up. "Honey, aren't we leaving yet? What are we waiting for?" David quickly glanced at Joanne and replied with a smile, "All right, let's go first." Joanne forced a smile and said, "Sis, I still have some things to take care of. I'll join you later." They were so obvious. Had I been blind before? I got into the car and noticed the passenger seat was pushed far back. "Honey, who's been sitting in the passenger seat?" David paled and said, "Maybe Lucas was playing there earlier." Lucas lied without batting an eye. "I reclined it to take a nap earlier." Little did they know I had already taken out the memory card from the car. David and Joanne couldn't resist exchanging a moment in the passenger seat. While my son sat in the back playing games, David had booked a high-end banquet hall. With our wedding photos and family portraits covering every backdrop, He pushed a 5-tier cake to the center of the stage and said to me affectionately, "Darling, thank you for being by my side all these years, starting from scratch a decade ago. I owe my success today to your silent sacrifices behind the scenes. Let's walk happily into the future together. We'll surely have many more decades of love and companionship. I love you." The audience erupted in applause. He had spared no expense. Inviting the entire company to witness our love, the more he pretended to adore me now, the more shocking it would be when he exposed my infidelity in front of everyone. Knowing his true nature, everything he did disgusted me. Lucas walked up to me with a glass of juice and said, "Mom, happy birthday." He was so well behaved and obedient. To outsiders, I must have seemed incredibly blessed. A loving husband and a devoted son. Only I knew that the apple juice was laced with sedatives. After the divorce, I came clean. I'm worth over 100 million. David and I used to be such a loving couple. When I first met him during summer vacation, I had gone back to the countryside to help my parents look after the house. He was our tenant, renting the entire building. Yet his electricity bill was the highest because he kept the lights on all night studying. Back then, I thought this guy was really hardworking and ambitious, not to mention good-looking, gentle and scholarly. The very picture of honesty. I'd run into him several times a day, dressed in ill-fitting suits, taking out the trash. Later, he told me he'd fallen for me at first sight, saying I was adorable. He did all this to catch my attention. And it worked. Handsome, academically brilliant. He'd always bring me a dessert whenever he returned, claiming my smile was sweeter than any treat. My family was wealthy, but I wasn't well-read, and I had no resistance to a man like him. When my parents suggested sending me abroad to study, I refused, willingly drowning in his tenderness. But looking back now, after we got together, he stopped paying rent, and I often funded his graduate school prep. He claimed to despise the rich, yet he spent my money without hesitation. Holding my hand, he'd say, Yuan, once I make it big, I'll build you a grand house." He always thought my family only owned that old, run-down building. Later, he kept his promise. Buying a 3-bedroom apartment in the city, which thrilled me more than the 2 villas my mom gifted me in Beijing and Shanghai. I did consider coming clean about my family's wealth, but he grew distant, using work as an excuse to rarely come home. After Lucas was born, my focus was entirely on Lucas. He often caught colds or fevers, and to take care of Lucas, I could barely sleep more than 4 hours a day, seeing the son I raised with such care secretly drugging me. My heart was deeply wounded. "Lucas, Mommy doesn't feel like drinking juice today. Could you get me something else?" Lucas is only 10 years old. Maybe an adult's manipulation clouded his judgment. I decided to give him a chance. If he replaced the juice, I could keep him by my side. "Mom, I already poured it for you. Just drink it, everyone's watching." Lucas probably thought I wouldn't be able to control him anymore, and his impatience with me was obvious. He's become just like his father, using the pressure of others' gazes to corner me. The first time I caught David lying about working overtime at the office, he was actually out dining with a colleague. He scowled and said, "Everyone's watching. I'm just here for a meal, not doing anything else." Over time, he used that line more and more skillfully. I never expected my son would use the same words on me. I picked up the glass and downed the juice in one gulp. Joanne hurried to the banquet. It seemed she had already secured the person for my affair. Lucas was nervous, looking up at me as if waiting for the drug to take effect so they could proceed with their plan. I kept him waiting for 10 minutes before slowly holding my head and saying, "Mom, are you dizzy? Let me take you to rest." After the divorce, I revealed my hand. I was worth over 100 million. Lucas helped me into a high-end lounge, decorated like a hotel. David took me over and laid me on the bed, asking impatiently, "Where is he?" There was some noise at the door, then the bed sank as I felt someone reeking of alcohol lying beside me. Lucas whispered cautiously, "Joanne's sister. He's not Uncle Jin." "What should I say?" Joanne instructed. "Just say you went to get Mom a glass of water and saw her kissing this uncle in the room." David said disapprovingly, "Who is this guy? I've never seen him before." I originally called Sophie, but Peter answered. He said Sophie was caught by the police for adultery. And I had no choice. Time was tight. so I just picked someone up at the hotel. How could you just bring a random man back? What if he takes it seriously? Joanne argued. It doesn't matter who she sleeps with anyway. Are you feeling sorry for him? To prevent them from arguing further and ruining the mood, I deliberately moaned, startling them into quickly leading Lucas out. They hid in the next room, thinking their plan had succeeded, and exchanged smug smiles. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the right time to bring everyone to my lounge table. You were just arguing with me about that man. Do you still have feelings for him? Joanne walked over to David, teasingly running her hand along his thigh. After all, they were once married, and she's still Lucas's mother. Do you want to save some face for him? Joanne sat on a high stool, hooking her leg around him. You're getting divorced anyway. What face is there to save? Do you still care about him? How could I? There's only you in my heart. I don't believe you. Joanne slid her hand inside, looking thoroughly pleased. Stop messing around. What are you afraid of with so many people here? He's asleep. We'll deal with him after we're done. David, unable to resist the teasing, dragged her closer and took her fiercely. They were still sober enough to avoid wrinkling their clothes, all while doubting each other. Little did they know, their every move was being broadcast live on the big screen. Joanne's moans echoed through the banquet hall via the speakers, leaving everyone stunned. Just 10 minutes earlier, the man who had stood on stage swearing his love for me now looked like a beast on screen. When I pushed the door open, they panicked like cornered dogs. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I was worth hundreds of millions. I cried pitifully in front of everyone. Husband, didn't you say you'd only love me in this lifetime? What are you doing? And in front of our son, Lucas was curled up on the sofa playing games. He was already over 500 degrees nearsighted, and the doctor had warned him to stay away from screens, but David gave him a phone just to keep him quiet. Behind me were all the colleagues David had invited to witness my humiliation. Seeing his behavior, many people cast disdainful glances. Joanne's face shifted from panic to furious humiliation. Irene, are you insane? You framed us. How can you say I framed you? Everything you did is being shown on the big screen for everyone to see. It's all there in plain sight. David, half convinced and half doubting, rushed to the banquet hall to see the big screen replaying their actions in the room. Enraged, he smashed the screen, his face pale and unsteady on his feet. Irene, what exactly do you want? We were once husband and wife. Was it necessary to go this far? David, I waited half a month for this birthday party. Yet you used this opportunity to frame me for having an affair and even had our son personally drug me. How could you stoop so low? Isn't this just because you want a divorce? Fine, let everyone here bear witness. I agree to divorce you. Lucas, terrified, ran to David's side, glaring at me with a vicious expression. I don't want to be with you. I want to be with Dad. In the end, even my son stood with his father. Since you want to be with your dad, I won't make it hard for you. I sneered, turning to David. I won't fight for custody, but I won't pay child support either. I won't take a single cent of your assets, and you have no right to mine. Joanne, with a smug, petty expression, retorted, what assets could you possibly have, for the past 10 years? You've been living off Lihua. What's there to covet? At this point, David's goal has been achieved. Though the process wasn't exactly honorable, he was just grateful to be rid of me and immediately agreed to my conditions. Fine, I agree. The onlookers who came for the spectacle left happily after the show. Only Mr. Summers stormed over angrily to warn David, you're a disgrace to all men. Starting tomorrow, don't bother coming to work anymore. David turned pale, while Joanne comforted him. It's just some lousy company. Who cares? With your skills, you could be a manager anywhere. Mr. Summers even turned back to curse as he walked away. I've put up with you for too long. If it weren't for your wife being my landlord, I wouldn't have hired you in the first place. Useless at everything. Freeloading all these years, you ungrateful wretch. After the divorce, I revealed everything. I'm worth over 100 million, on the day we were supposed to sign the divorce papers. David backed out. She knelt before me at the civil affairs office, pleading, honey, I was wrong. Forgive me just once. Let's not get divorced. Okay, we still have a child together. David pushed Lucas in front of me, and Lucas timidly tugged at my sleeve, saying, "Mom, I was wrong. I'll be good and listen to you from now on." David only realized after losing his job that the entire office building where he worked was under my name. The annual rent from that building alone was tens of millions. Far more than his meager salary. He thought my family only owned that old, run-down house in the countryside. After learning the truth, he probably wanted to slap himself silly. "You two don't need to put on an act in front of me. I heard every word of your plan to drug me and ruin my reputation. If you don't go in and sign now, just wait for the legal summons." Watching them pretend to be devoted makes me sick. I can't believe I wasted 10 years of my youth on people like this. David snapped in frustration. "Don't tell me you're blameless. You hid this from me for years. If you'd told me earlier, our family of 3 would still be happy together. Would we have ended up like this? David, search your conscience. If I'd told you sooner, you wouldn't have schemed to leave me with nothing. You'd have been plotting to inherit my fortune instead." David looked as if his secret had been exposed, his face turning panicked. "No, honey, I love you," he stammered. I sneered. Too tired to engage, and turned to leave. Lucas grabbed me, crying hysterically, "Mom, don't go. Does Dad not want me either?" "Lucas, I gave you a chance. When I asked you to bring me a different glass of juice, what did you do? You're no longer a 3 or 4-year-old child. If in your heart, I as your mother am so utterly wicked, then there's no need to force yourself to stay by my side." I shook off his hand and got into the car without looking back. I filed for divorce with the court. Submitting evidence of David's infidelity and the proof of how he and his father framed me. David didn't show up in court but instead frantically called me in private. He even blocked me at the entrance of the villa where I lived, but I had security throw him out. He knew I was inside and shouted loudly, Yuan, I won't divorce you. I love you. I swear I'll only love you from now on." This legally illiterate man. I had solid evidence of his affair, even if he didn't attend court. The divorce would still be granted. On the day the divorce decree was issued, David's lingering hope finally died. Joanne snatched the decree and exclaimed, "How could this happen? You didn't even show up to sign it. So how is the divorce finalized? You were married. His assets should belong to you too. How could they all be awarded to him?" David, red-eyed, retorted, "It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have divorced at all. How dare you say that? You were the one who came to me saying you liked me. Otherwise, I would have gone abroad with Mr. Zhao by now. Look at what you've become. You don't even have a decent job. If you don't take Irene's money, how are you going to support me?" That day, David sent me countless texts full of regret about the divorce, all begging for another chance. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I was worth hundreds of millions. I pulled out my SM card and flushed it down the toilet. David still refused to give up, coming to the villa every day to wait for me. Now jobless, he could sleep at the doorstep all night, hoping I'd change my mind, but he didn't know I had already gone traveling. When the butler sent me surveillance footage of him lying at the entrance, I was lounging on the beach, sipping coconut water and checking out handsome guys. "Let him lie there," I said. "Put this villa up for sale." My parents watched me with concern through the screen. Yuan, how could you bear to let Lucas suffer with David?" Lucas, just like his father, is quite good at pretending and knows how to win his grandparents' favor. They originally planned to transfer all their assets to their only grandson after retirement. Lucas is already at an age where he can distinguish right from wrong. I gave him all my love and raised him for so many years, yet he conspired with his father to drug me and frame me for having an affair with someone else. After what he did, he's no longer my son. My parents didn't say anything more. A few days later, the butler called to say someone was interested in the villa, a young man who wanted to sign the contract in person. "This is already my lowest price, if you want to bargain. Look elsewhere, I have plenty of properties, so selling isn't a concern." The young man's voice was pleasant, and he didn't haggle. To show sincerity, he flew to the coastal village where I was vacationing to sign the contract. The buyer was a young man named Sean, who looked youthful and dressed in a suit like a nobleman, clearly wealthy. "Sis, I'm buying a villa from you. Mind if I add your WeChat?" His intentions were so blatant I even suspected he bought the villa just to get my contact. Rumor has it that on the day Sean moved in, he saw David lying at the doorstep and beat him up, mistaking him for a beggar. David returned home covered in wounds, the house dark and eerily quiet. He looked around. No one was there, no matter how late he used to come back. I would always leave a small nightlight on for him and get up to make him a cup of warm milk. But now, Joanne was out all night with his money, and he hadn't had a hot meal in ages. Only at times like this would he desperately remember how good I was to him. He used to complain about my nagging, how I urged him to take care of his health, eat 3 meals on time, and wash his clothes daily, hanging them clean on the balcony. I'd fold them neatly into the closet, fragrant with the scent of sunshine. David stared at the chaotic mess around him. Clothes strewn everywhere, rotting fruit peels emitting a foul stench, and finally collapsed in agony. Bending over as he sobbed uncontrollably, Lucas crawled out of her room, dark circles under her eyes, having gone days without eating while gaming nonstop. She trembled from hunger, like a ghost slithering across the floor. "Dad, I'm so hungry. I'm in so much pain." David frantically called an ambulance. On the way, he got my number from my parents. Yuan. Lucas fainted from acute gastroenteritis. "Can you come see her?" Hearing his panicked voice, I replied coldly, "If she's sick, call a doctor. I don't have superpowers. Just looking at her won't fix anything." Time to change my number again. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I was worth hundreds of millions. My parents were always meddling, so I sent them abroad. Even if David wanted to find them, he couldn't. I continued traveling, and when I passed through a poor mountainous region, I was struck by its stunning landscapes. Yet the locals lived in primitive conditions due to poverty. I decided to stay and spent a year developing the area into a tourist resort. As the business took off, the villagers' lives improved. Those who had left for work returned home, and families gathered happily for meals. Seeing their smiles was the only thing that filled the void in my heart. One ordinary morning, as I carried feed to the chickens, I spotted 2 familiar figures at my doorstep. It's been a year since we last met. David and Lucas have become so thin they're practically skin and bones, with dark circles under their eyes. Who knows how many sleepless nights they've endured. They traveled over mountains and rivers to find me, their clothes wrinkled and likely unchanged. Lucas burst into tears the moment he saw me, collapsing to his knees. "Mom, I was wrong. Mom, please don't abandon me." Yuan, why would you rather spend money helping these strangers than help us, your own family? What can they possibly do for you? Lucas is your real son. David has lived like a dog this past year, searching everywhere for me but never succeeding. The family's savings were all squandered by Joanne, who also resented David for not earning enough and being unable to compete with younger, stronger men. To support Joanne, he even sold their only home. Over the past year, Joanne never cooked a single meal. She and Lucas survived on takeout. Lucas, with his special health condition, had to visit the hospital every few days. He spent all the money from selling his house and couldn't find a job. Mr. Summers ordered rival companies not to hire him, warning that doing so would mean opposing Mr. Summers. Big companies wouldn't take him, and small ones thought he was too old. What completely broke him was Joanne leaving him again, this time because he was poor, so he spent his last penny to find me. "David, we're already divorced. Stop guilt-tripping me and leave me alone, okay?" Yuan, how can you be so heartless? Lucas is your own son. Even if you hate me, you can't deny the child you raised for 10 years. Look at what he's become now. Doesn't it hurt you? Lucas stopped going to school. He just stays in his room playing games all day, eating chips when he's hungry and drinking cola when he's thirsty. In just a year, his eyes have sunken, his face turned sallow, and he's become skin and bones, completely losing the lively, adorable boy he once was. "Mom, I was wrong. I know you only disciplined me because you cared. Joanne never bothered with me, and that's why I ended up like this. I hate her so much. Mom, please take care of me again, okay? I promise I'll be filial to you from now on." The father and son insisted on staying despite my objections. I refused to let them inside. So they settled in a run-down temple instead. Every day, they fawned over me, cleaning the chicken coop, fetching water, fertilizing the fields, doing all the hard and dirty work. The villagers even praised my good fortune for having such a loving husband and son. I just smiled without a word. Had I not overheard their conversation, I might have been fooled too. Dad, you and Mom are already divorced. If she dies, will her assets even go to us? See, a dog can't change its habit of eating crap. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I'm worth over 100 million. Tang Lihua and Lucas planned to feed the chicken medicine, then serve the slaughtered bird to me. Yuan, I know you won't change your mind. After this meal, let's part ways amicably. I won't bother your mother anymore. I made this myself. The father and son looked at me earnestly, waiting for me to eat, waiting for me to die. Suddenly, I felt how pitiful my life had been. Lucas, can I ask why you hate me so much? Lucas avoided eye contact. Lucas, doesn't he hate Mommy? Aunt Joan forced me before. I didn't want to frame Mommy either, but Mommy wouldn't let me play games or eat the things I love. You wouldn't even let me touch them, so I listened to Aunt Joanne. Have you ever wondered why I forbid you from eating junk food? Look at what you've been eating this past year. What has it done to your body? I know I was wrong, Mommy. I'll eat properly from now on. I scooped a big chicken leg and some soup for Lucas. Then eat more meat. Guogua's face paled. Still young, he couldn't hide his panic and quickly turned to David for help. Yuan, we made this especially for you. Eat more. Don't waste it. I crossed my arms and didn't move. David awkwardly placed it in front of me, then called to his son, Lucas, let's eat too. They went through every dish on the table but avoided the chicken, not daring to touch it. Who knows how much poison was added? Officer, it's them. They tried to poison someone. The villagers brought the police in. David was instantly terrified out of his wits. What nonsense are you talking about? We saw with our own eyes that he fed the chicken arsenic, then killed it and gave it to Yuan to eat. What is this if not murder? David, seeing his deeds exposed, tried to destroy the evidence, but before he could act, he was subdued by the police. The chicken meat was sent for testing and found to contain excessive toxins. David and his son were arrested on the spot, and a prison sentence was inevitable. As they were taken away, he still begged me, Yuan, it's okay if you hate me, but Lucas is your son. Don't let him go to prison. It will ruin his life. David, it was you who ruined him. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I was worth over 100 million. Tang Lihua was sentenced to 5 years for attempted murder. Lucas was sent to a juvenile detention center and later to an orphanage. While there, he was bullied, went hungry, and had no games to play. He tried to hide and write letters to me, but he didn't know where to send them, so he mailed them to Sean's villa. Sean brought stacks of letters to me, but I didn't even open them. I just threw them straight into the fire. He teased me, aren't you going to read them? What if he has something urgent to tell you? I gave him life. But he's the son who wanted to take mine. There's nothing worth seeing. Don't bring me these letters anymore. I was in the mountains this year and occasionally kept in touch with Sean. He bought a villa just to have a way to contact me, but he rarely disturbed me. After returning from the mountains, he visited me twice. Once was on my birthday. He brought me a cake. How did you know it was my birthday? Last year on your birthday, I was there to watch the show. That day Joanne picked up someone at the hotel, and it was Sean. She had drunk a bit too much at the social event, so Joanne carried her and laid her next to me. At the time, I didn't get a chance to see what her face looked like. When she woke up, she heard strange noises coming from the banquet hall and saw me. He said I looked incredibly beautiful at that moment and couldn't understand why David would abandon me for Joanne, that old hag. Sean is the CEO of a listed company and isn't short on money. To get closer to me, he spent a fortune buying a villa, one he had never lived in. He said I could go back anytime if I had nowhere to stay. So, what are your plans now? I returned from the mountainous area, where the tourism industry had stabilized and no longer required my direct supervision. With nothing much to do, I found myself at a loss. Too much money and nowhere to spend it. He laughed at my humble brag. If you're free, how about being a CEO's wife for a change? I rolled my eyes. After the way this marriage has hurt me, do you really think I'd consider getting married again? He leaned closer. Then how about just dating? I'm currently repulsed by the thought of men. He gritted his teeth. Being a backup is fine too. After the divorce, I laid my cards on the table. I'm worth hundreds of millions. He had tricked me. What backup? The very next year, he climbed into my bed. When I went abroad for management courses, he relocated his company there, refusing to be a CEO in his own right. Yet he'd come home after work, put on an apron, and cook, waiting for me to finish school. He'd kiss me when I left and kiss me when I returned. This younger man filled my emotional needs to the brim, providing everything I could want. In the third year, my parents dumped a child on me. Yuan, this is your brother, but your mom is too old to raise a child. So we're leaving this to you. Your mom and I are going traveling. Staring at the giggling baby in my arms, I frantically called my parents, only to hear busy tones. Yuan, raising one is the same as raising two. Let's have a baby of our own. In the fourth year, when my baby was born, Sean put aside all his work and focused on taking care of the child at home. While we were shopping for baby supplies at the mall, a deranged woman barged in and tried to snatch the baby from my arms. She was pulled away by the staff and thrown out. The staff member bent down to apologize, saying, "I'm sorry, Miss Lin. This woman was tricked into coming abroad, lost her child, and now wanders around here all day, trying to snatch babies from anyone holding one." Watching that vaguely familiar figure, she sat on the street, muttering to herself, with heavy snow falling on her tattered clothes, her hands and feet already swollen and red from the cold. I had seen her at her most triumphant. Sitting in David's arms, looking at me provocatively. Back then, I only heard she had run off with a wealthy man to live lavishly abroad. No one knew that after being deceived into going abroad, her passport and ID were confiscated, and the man forced her into prostitution. She got pregnant, fell ill, and when she couldn't afford treatment, the man abandoned her on the streets. With no money, no passport, and no legitimate income, she wandered the streets begging, drinking the coldest dew, sleeping under freezing bridges. What was she searching for in the end? Sean walked over and put his arm around me, saying, "It's nothing, I just saw a dog run by." He draped his coat over my shoulders, chattering like an old man. "I told you to dress warmer when you go out. What if you catch a cold? The people and things of the past have nothing to do with me. My future will be very happy." That's the end of today's story. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe. We will keep updating with more exciting stories and look forward to meeting you again next time.